Hey guys, what's going on? Jebb here. And in today's video, we are joined by none other than Tom Crown. We are going to be discussing the Bitcoin FUD that we have had going on in the cryptocurrency space over the last couple of months. I want to hear his take on what we should be doing in response to this FUD. We're going to be starting off with some analysis of the current Bitcoin price. We're going to discuss why we think that Bitcoin has dropped the way that it has and where we think it is going next. And then we're also going to be talking about our best and worst case scenarios for Bitcoin's price by the end of this bull market. It is a pleasure to have you, my friend. How are you doing?
Doing well, Jebb. Good to see you again.
Heck yeah. Guys, so if you don't know, I'm on Around the Blockchain over on BitBoy Crypto's channel twice a week over on Tuesday and Thursday. And I met Tom over on ATB, and we've gotten to know each other ever since. And we've been sitting here chatting for the last 10 minutes or so. Check out his awesome logo. I never had the idea that Bitcoin could be a pair of sunglasses like that. That's really cool. You want to tell him a little bit about that? That's great.
Oh, man. I had a friend who does design and marketing, and he just kind of was like, hey, can I take a swing at this? This was before my channel even started. And he came to me with this, and I was blown away, man. It kind of even looks a little anonymous, kind of the group, and then it incorporates the Bitcoin logo in a way that most people don't even notice. I'm a big fan, so I'm very grateful to him.
Absolutely. Any of the original viewers of our channel will remember our very first logo from like 2-3 years ago. A friend of mine in high school made that in like 2 minutes and sent it to me. And I was like, this is great. I have something, because I had made something that looked absolutely awful. And Alex came up and saved the day and came in clutch. And we used that for about a year and a half. But yeah, so Tom, I want to hear your take on why do you think that we've been trading sideways here over the last couple of weeks? Why do you think we've dropped so much? Where do you see us going over the next couple of weeks? Are we going to have a hard bounce here at $30,000 and start rallying back up towards that 60 level in the next couple of months? Do you see a drop down into the mid 20s? What's your take on the current price action here in crypto?
Yeah, I mean, that's the question everyone's asking. Yeah. We all have an answer. What I see happening here, maybe the market definitely got overheated. A lot of you guys out there, if you were in crypto in 2020, the thought of hitting 65,000, that was just out of the question. We were looking for 20 again. People were saying we'll never hit 20 again. I think maybe the market just got a little too heated too quickly. We saw maybe even some of the Dodge hype, the meme coin hype type things. We saw, and NFTs, we saw actually a lot of cycles of really intense, maybe euphoria or interest from those usually that wouldn't be or weren't in the market. And so I kind of see this as just the cooling off period, the natural ebb and flow, expansion and contraction of markets. And so what are we thinking next? Is everyone shaken out yet? I think that's the question. Do you believe it's real? Is it over? If you believe it's over, then I think we're going up. Not you, Jebb, everybody.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking the most probable scenario is still what I've been looking for. And that's a climb back to the 20 weekly. If you go back to the chart, you look at the 20 weekly moving average, every bear market, we lose the 20, we move back up to it. And that's pretty much where it does either, do or die. It keeps going or it rejects. And that's typically when we see that long bear market period.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, because a lot of people might not realize the 20 weekly exponential moving average almost never gets broken in a bull market. So a lot of people have been in this debate for the last 6 months or 6 weeks, excuse me. Have we entered a bear market? Is the bull market over? And there's been this big debate that people are taking sides on over the last 2 odd months of whether or not we've entered a bull market. But I think I completely agree with you. We got massively overheated. And I've used the analogy many times on my channel that what we saw what is essentially a forest go without a forest fire for half a century, right? All that debris, all that detritus got built up, and then eventually lightning struck and it went up like a tinderbox and everything caught on fire. What we've seen is we went too long without a controlled burn, and so now we're having a massive fire, and everybody's wondering, I wonder why we're having such a big fire. Well, because we didn't have controlled burns. This is resetting the market, and that's what we need. So I love the question you asked, are all the weak hands out yet? And that's something I want to ask the audience also, and I want to hear your takes on in the comment section down below. Do you think all the weak hands are out? Because the last 6 months of price action from 9,000 to 66,000, I think, and Tom, I'd love to hear your take on this, but I think you'll agree with me, a lot of it was built on, yes, fundamental developments. Yes, Tesla bought into it. Yes, there was a lot of mainstream attention. Yes, we saw a bunch of executives get in a room with Michael Saylor, excuse me, so he could pump it. But also a lot of that price action happened because of hype. Do you see that hype coming back in the next couple of months? Do you think that we need that hype to go back to 65,000? Or do you think that we never actually went there in the first place based on that, and we should already be back at 65,000?
I love that analogy. I love that fire analogy of the forest. I might steal that from you. Nobody
go for it.
Don't tell me. No, I really like that. It's really accurate. Just kind of the overgrowth, preventing, maybe stunting the growth of everything else.
Yeah, no, I think that I think that we were spoiled. That at the end of the day is what happened. We got spoiled. Where I think that we are going next is I think that we're probably going to sit down here in this just north of $30,000 region for a little bit. We're probably going to be testing $30,000 again pretty soon. Yesterday, as you guys are seeing this the day after it's recorded, in yesterday's Coffee and Crypto morning live stream, we discussed how Tim and I both believe that we are going to see Bitcoin drop again, probably down into the mid-20s, and then we're going to bounce from there. That's personally what I think. But as Tom was saying, I really want to see us get back above that 20 weekly exponential moving average. And I really want to see us start moving to the upside, not based necessarily on hype, but based instead on strong fundamentals and hodlers. That being said, I also want to talk to you a little bit about all the Bitcoin FUD that we've seen lately. And unfortunately, crypto has gotten big enough that it kind of has its own air of politics. So I don't really want to go in the direction of like pointing fingers and saying, oh, Elon Musk did it, or oh, Michael Saylor did it, or oh, Charles Hoskinson or someone did it. But I would love to hear your thoughts on how big of an impact do you think that FUD played in this massive correction that we've seen over the last 2 months? And how should we as traders and investors go about internalizing that FUD and making sure that it doesn't necessarily freak us out? What are your thoughts on that, Tom?
Yeah, I think this lines up a lot with what we were just talking about. Hype and FUD, two sides of a coin.
Yep.
They really seemingly are tools. And I'm not really saying someone's using these tools. Maybe it's just the market's natural kind of expression. Hype, I would kind of answer that question you asked before as well, is do we need the hype? Typically, at the lowest points of reversal in a bear market, there's no hype. There was no hype at 3,100 in 2018 and 18. There's no hype in March 2020, yet we climbed anyway. What we really find is hype follows the price and FUD follows the price back down. I really don't think either of them are that important. I think maybe they're akin to a multiplier. A market's moving a direction, you hype, and it kind of maybe it allows it to continue a little farther than it would. I don't like to use the word naturally, but pushes it a little farther along, and price reverses, starts falling, and FUD really does the same thing in the other direction. It's just a catalyst, or not a catalyst.
It's almost like it puts the market on leverage. It's almost like you leverage the market, which makes sense because there's a lot of people in cryptocurrency that believe that a big part of the reason why we rally so quickly and dump so quickly is because of the proliferation of leverage trading in the cryptocurrency space. That's a bit off topic, but if you have anything to add on that, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I've of course heard these arguments and thought of them myself, and I'm undecided. There's leverage in other markets as well. I think crypto probably especially a little degenerate leverage use compared to others. So it could be, I think, here's what I can say. This touch we had to, I think it was 28.8 or something, the slightly lower low we had yesterday. If we do see a move back up here without going lower, I think that would be an argument towards that leverage idea. Is that would be a stop hunt. Lots of people looking to stop at 30,000 thinking they're smarter than the market. If it goes under 30, I'll just dump my longs and blah, blah, blah. And what we saw is it just sneak that slightly lower low. We've seen a pretty V-shaped recovery, but not that significant. I'm looking at price 33.5 right now. I could definitely see lower. Definitely could see the 24s area. I think you're saying something mid-20s. It's really just a toss-up to me. And I think it's going to come down to, have we had enough FUD? Have we shaken enough people out? This is something you really can't see in Bitcoin without being in it for years, is you really have to see everyone believe it's over. That's when it turns around. That's when you get these crazy rallies. March 2020, people now can look back and say, man, I would have loved to buy there. I promise you wouldn't have. You would have loved to, but you wouldn't have, because you'd be scared. You have to feel it's real. So maybe, is there enough FUD yet is the question.
Yeah, no, it's a good question, because I think let's think about the three biggest corrections in Bitcoin history that really come to mind. The bottom of the 2015 accumulation phase after the $1,300 all-time high before 2016-17's bull market kicked off. It was kind of a curved bottom. It wasn't even so much of a V bottom. At the end of 2018, on into December and January of 19, we saw a massive crash and then just a very slow recovery. And then, of course, during the COVID crash, we saw it V bottom. But then again, Bitcoin was really wanting to trade around $8,000 to $10,000, and COVID kind of came in and freaked everybody out. It was basically a massive fear dump. It was a gigantic. It was probably literally the biggest FUD story of the century so far in the cryptocurrency market. Yeah. So you kind of expect the market to have a giant V bottom like that. But a lot of times what we see, and by the way, I'm not calling this a bear market, but what you see a lot of times in bear markets is you will see a pretty sustained correction, and then it'll round out at the bottom. A lot of times, this is why I don't think that we're in a bear market, because we never saw a vertical top. Many times the tops of bull markets tend to look like this, and the bottoms of bull markets tend to look like, this. They go a lot slower when they're reversing. And I think we might end up seeing the same exact thing happen here over the next couple of months on Bitcoin. As people get bored and as the FUDsters continue to leave, then people will start to forget about the FUD that put us down here. They'll remember, oh, wait a second, $30,000 is actually a pretty solid buy opportunity compared to what we did in Q2. So maybe I should buy some. And then I think we're going to start slowly moving to the upside. And I think that's a great thing, because that gives even more time for the institutions to start getting in the space. I believe it was Contrarian dude who I was talking to. He was talking about how a massive number of institutions and organizations and companies, they're getting into crypto, but it takes them time. They can't just get into crypto like that. They're not like us retail. They can't just say, oh, okay, I'm going to open a Coinbase account. I'm going to own 200 grand worth of Bitcoin tomorrow. It takes time to get the CFOs and the COOs and the CEOs and the board of directors on board. So it takes time. We see that happening with all fundamentals. And I think fundamentals are what we need to be driving this market, not so much the hype. So my point here, and I'd love to hear your take on this, is that I actually think that if we don't V-bottom and we start to curve back up to the upside, that would actually be much healthier for Bitcoin's long-term growth compared to what we saw earlier on this year.
Yeah, 100%. I've even said something similar recently. I do expect a back test to that 20. I just can't see the market continuing to the downside without touching it. It just doesn't look right. Not that that really matters, but the slower the approach back up, the slower the climb. I agree with you. I think the better odds we have of just popping right back into trend. I think maybe the COVID, we can finally say that now.
I think maybe I don't know.
I think maybe we were already undervalued. We got so undervalued. Mm-hmm. Maybe the 65, the kind of huge expansion, was a response to being undervalued. And this 30,000 area, we're kind of returning to this mean, seeing how this fits. I think we're still ahead of where I would have imagined a year ago where we'd be now.
Yeah.
That's it's hard to see that from the outside, but we're still doing great. It's just a little boring, a little scary. But this is what always happens. This is nothing new, at least in my experience.
Absolutely not. No, I've been in the crypto space for almost 4 years now. My first day in crypto was July 31st, 2017. So I'm about to be a 4-year-old in crypto. And I have seen so many rallies, so many corrections. I have seen this all before. For anyone watching this show and you haven't been here that long, which I haven't even been here anywhere near as long as some of the other people I've spoken to on the channel. I think Contrarian Dude's been here since 2011. So Tom, I don't know how long you've been here, but I know you've been here for a while. But I think everybody who has veterancy in this space, they'll tell you the exact same thing. Keep your eyes on the prize and your head in the sky, and you're going to be just fine. That's what I always tell people. I want people to understand that Bitcoin is not a short-term play. It's a long-term play, and it's the kind of play that we want to be making for the long run. So real quick, guys, before we head out here, I want to ask Tom what his prediction for the end of this Bitcoin bull market is. Number one, where do you think, or excuse me, how long do you think we'll be in a bull market? How much time do you think we have left before the top? Everybody's talking about a late summer all-time high, or a late summer into the bull market, or going on into 2021. There's a lot, or into 2022. There are a lot of people like me that think we might be starting to break, not totally, but starting to break the bull market, bear market cycle that has shown up throughout the history of Bitcoin and crypto. And also, I'd love to hear your take on what your best case and worst case scenario for Bitcoin's price is by the end of that bull market.
Yeah, absolutely. We hear that 4-year cycle just pounded over and over again. And you know what? It was real. It is real, at least as far as we see right now. But that doesn't mean it's going to continue to be real. And if I know one thing about Bitcoin, it's the minute everyone accepts something as truth, it's gone, or it's going the other way or something. So I don't think that it's threatening that maybe we're seeing a changing cycle. That could mean shorter bull runs, but also shorter bear markets, or shorter cycles of not quite as much growth, but not as much loss on the other hand either. And likely that's a healthier condition. I think that institutions, big money, can really take an asset more seriously when it's moving in a waving form like that, as opposed to maybe 3 years of nothing. So best case and worst case scenarios for me. Best case, since nothing in my mind has actually changed yet. I don't believe we're in a bear market yet. I think that when we get to that 20, we'll see what happens, and then we might know by then. But so until I see something that shows me that we are done, I don't think we're done with this market. And so I'm looking for the same targets I have been looking for. Unfortunately, I don't think this one is as confident as it was when I originally made it. I was looking for 100K in July, and that number comes from way far back in some math and charting. And I was looking for the cycle top to be about 366,000. There's no magic behind this. All I did was apply what percent change did we see in the previous cycles from low to high, and then I applied it to 31,000's low in 2018. Easy math. I still believe that's what's going on, but there are some kind of invalidation points along the way that we haven't seen yet. Worst case scenario. Oh, I don't like the worst cases. Worst case scenario. You're right. Is that I think we reject in the worst case from that 20. We see another sell off. And the prices I'll be looking for, 24 is definitely on my radar. 20,000, the all-time high previously. For me, that's too clean. I can't imagine a Bitcoin where it just back tests an all-time high and then starts running. And so worst case, I'm looking at there's an untested monthly support at 30 or 13,680. That would probably be the worst case scenario for me. In reality, that's still not even that terrible. That'd be a great opportunity to buy. I'd be a buyer at that price. I don't expect it, but that's pretty much the only other kind of trajectory I see here.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. The only other major resistance level, or at the time resistance levels, now support levels on Bitcoin below 20 was 13,800. That was the high in mid 2019. Mm-hmm. And then 17,000 was the secondary high after the 20,000 high at the very beginning of 2018. I agree with you. It is very possible that Bitcoin goes down there. And I want you guys watching at home to keep that in mind. That can't happen. But guess what? If it does happen, you just got the discount of a lifetime. You basically just got a time machine and got to go back in time. You know, all the people complaining about, oh, if only I had been able to buy Bitcoin at 13 grand. Well, then you get the chance to. So, take the advice of those who wish they had, because you're going to miss out if you don't. I think best case scenario, we're going to see Bitcoin move up into that $250,000 region, up to 366, like you were saying. Worst case scenario, guys, I'm in agreement with Tom. I think it is possible that Bitcoin goes down below $20,000 when we move into a bear market. I think it's possible. I don't think it's happened yet. I don't think it's confirmed, but I do think it is possible. What I think is most likely is over the next couple of months, we're going to be moving sideways, and we're going to continue to kind of curve to the upside. Maybe we should go this way, kind of curve to the upside, moving here throughout the end of summer. We've also seen historically that Q4 tends to be a very, very bullish quarter for Bitcoin and other asset markets. We see that happen in retail also. Everybody is spending money in between Black Friday and New Year's Eve, and that spending jogs the economy. It tends to increase GDP in Q4, and it also tends to increase investment because people tend to be more interested in spending money, if you will. And then Q1, Q2 aren't that bullish, which is why it was interesting that we saw so much bullishness in Q1 of this year. But anyway, guys, that's all we've got time for today. Guys, make sure to check out the description box down below. Crown's channel will be linked down there. My friend, by the way, just so you know, I have had people banging on my door for the last 2 years, or not 2 years, but like the last year plus, saying, you've got to talk to Tom Crown. You've got to talk to Crown Trading. He's so good. And now we've done it. I'm so happy to have you on the channel, man. It was a great conversation. Like I said, everybody go follow him. Tom, if there are any further things you would like to say, any places that we can follow you, let us know.
Man, just YouTube at Tom Crown. That's our main place. And Jebb, it was great talking to you. I knew on across the blockchain, I was like, this guy, we get it. We see it the same way. We're both kind of maybe the OG-ish mindset. And yeah, man, it's always great to chat. We'll do this again. We'll have you on my channel. And
Absolutely. Heck yeah. Well, guys, that's all we got time for today. Before I go, though, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.